Thanks so much, Mads. So we're continuing our mini-series this evening on living in the way. We're going to be taking a look at some of the post-resurrection accounts of Jesus meeting with his disciples. And last week we heard from Ben, who talked to us about the story of Thomas and his journey from doubt to faith. And this evening we heard in the Bible passage that the disciples are to be witnesses of Jesus' life, death, and resurrection. And my prayer for this evening that when we hear those words that we are to be witnesses, that we would, shake off any heaviness that might come with those words and instead take on the joy that it is that Jesus is alive. So to be a witness simply means to have knowledge of something from observation or experience. And so when we talk about being witnesses, it simply means to share that knowledge. And so a little bit later this evening, we're going to watch a video clip, which I saw just this last week or two. And it just really highlighted for me the significance and importance of what it means to be witnesses today, that it's just as significant and important as it was for those disciples 2,000 years ago. So we witness things all the time. We all see stuff happen. We all experience things. And some of those things that we see and experience, we choose to share with others. And I think there might be 3 reasons why we share things with others. So I think we share things when there's something really significant that happens, like a once-in-a-lifetime moment. We might be quite eager to share that experience with somebody else. Maybe it's a gig or a concert. Maybe it's like a football game win, or like there might just be something that happens where you're like, this was a once-in-a-lifetime moment and experience, and I want to tell other people about it. I think we also tell other people about stuff when it is of great significance to us, when it really matters, or when it's something that we're really passionate about. So it might not be a once-in-a-lifetime thing, but it's something that, like, the way that we're wired means that we're really interested in it. And so we might start telling others about that thing, that particular interest or experience. And then the other thing that we choose to share with others is just the really normal, everyday, consistent things that happen. Like maybe the TV show that you watched, or the thing that you did at the weekend, the person you met up with. And so this evening, I want to talk about the significance that an encounter with the risen Jesus can have on our desire to witness to who he is. And I'd love to suggest that encounters with the risen Jesus can be significant and life-changing moments. And my prayer is that if you've not encountered Jesus, that you might have a significant and life-changing encounter with him this evening. But encounters with the risen Jesus can also be regular, consistent, and relatively normal. And my hope is that each one of us might experience an encounter with the risen Jesus and become passionate about others being able to do the same. In the Bible passage today, Jesus said the good news is to be proclaimed in his name to all nations, beginning from Jerusalem. You are witnesses of these things. So the good news that Jesus is alive and that he's made a way for us to be made right with God is for all nations. There's not one people group, one country, one person that is to miss out on that news. God's love is for everyone. God's forgiveness is for everyone. Jesus' death and resurrection is for everyone. Jesus made a way for us to be right with God, to take account for the stuff we get wrong, because he wants everyone to know his love. And so that means that the good news that Jesus has risen and that you can encounter him by his Spirit is for everyone. And so my encouragement is, don't say that other persons know for them. I have so many stories of times when I have said people's no for them. There have been times where I was too scared of looking silly that I thought if I told someone about Jesus, I would just look stupid. Therefore, I'm going to say their no to Jesus for them and not tell them. There have been times where I have had like a really long-standing relationship and it's felt too high a risk to tell them about Jesus because I didn't want to jeopardize the friendship and relationship I have. And quite honestly, there have been times where I have just been lazy. The more consistently and intentionally I've encountered Jesus, the less satisfied I have become with saying people's no for them. because what I've seen and experienced is too good not to share. My life looks profoundly different knowing Jesus than if I didn't know him, and that is too good not to share. And so I don't want to become a barrier to all the nations, all the people, all of Lincoln, all of my friends, all of my family, knowing Jesus. But proclaiming the good news to all nations is a really big task. So Jesus gives the disciples a bit of a pointer. He says to his disciples that this message will begin in Jerusalem, which is exactly where the disciples were when the risen Jesus appeared to them. And so our starting place for sharing the good news of Jesus is exactly where we currently are, in our families, our friendship groups, our workplaces, on our evening out with our mates, at our sports club. That's our starting place. I'm standing here today because a great multitude of people around me never stopped saying what they'd seen and experienced from the risen Jesus. And they did it exactly where they found themselves. So my parents talked to me about the risen Jesus and an opportunity to encounter him at home. My friend from church chatted with me when I was in a youth group. A friend at school encouraged me that she explained some really crazy, insane thing that the Holy Spirit did in her church. At my church, you would never see. We were all like hymn books and pews. And it blew my mind that Jesus would meet with people like that. It significantly changed and transformed my understanding. Right now, some of the people that are shaping my understanding about how to meet with Jesus and how to encounter him are some of our 3, 4, and 5-year-olds at our 9:15 service because they worship him so freely. And right now, those are the people that I'm learning from about how to meet with Jesus just so freely. And I am convinced that hearing from others about their small, regular, relatively normal, consistent encounters with the risen Jesus, as well as those crazy, life-changing moments, have significantly transformed and shaped my life. It can be overwhelming to think about all nations, and so we just need to concentrate on beginning where we are. So I just want to invite you, so sorry if you're an introvert, but I want to invite you just to turn to the person next to you. We're all going to be somewhere this week. Between now and next Sunday, we're all going somewhere. Maybe it's work, maybe it's uni, maybe it's college, maybe it's to the supermarket. I just want you to name one place, really practically, one place you're going to be this week. It should take you 10 seconds. Turn to someone next to you. Where are you going to be this week? One place. Amazing. Can I invite you just to draw your attention back to the front? Don't get too carried away about chatting where you are this week. We've got plenty of time after the service to chat about that. But we're all going to be somewhere. And the invitation I think this passage offers us is to just think, where are we going to be this week? It says beginning in Jerusalem, they had to start to share. So beginning in Lincoln, beginning in your household, beginning at your university course, beginning in your workplace, that's where you are. That's where God's called you to be. And so God's plan for the continuation of this eyewitness account that began 2,000 years ago, it includes you and it includes me. It involves choosing to invite people into opportunities where they can encounter the risen Jesus. It means taking opportunities like some of our young people did in McDonald's to invite a mate to church. It means mentioning church when someone asks you tomorrow, how was your weekend? It means extending an invitation to our next Alpha course, which is beginning in May, to a friend that you've known for years. And you've always known, I just love it if they'd come along. But maybe this is your prompt to send that text. We all witness about something. The thing that made the disciples effective witnesses to the news that Jesus was alive was an encounter with the risen Jesus. So we can only say what we've seen and experienced if we've actually experienced it. And again, I do apologize to the introverts, but I'm going to invite you to turn to the person next to you again. And this time, I want you to share what difference has an encounter with the risen Jesus made in your life? And if you're not sure how you would answer that question, or if you're not sure if you know Jesus, then maybe try answering this question. Who do you think Jesus is? So turn to someone next to you. What difference has an encounter with the risen Jesus made in your life? So I'm just going to invite you to turn your attention back towards the front again. I hope that that was an encouragement to you as you shared with one another. Sometimes I think the temptation to opt out of witnessing about Jesus to those around us comes from the culture that we're in. And I think maybe there is an assumption that we are in a post-Christendom society. Basically, that means where the Christian faith is increasingly unfamiliar in people's general lived experience here in Lincoln and in the UK. And so to bring up faith or Jesus would be pretty unpopular, probably comes with quite a lot of baggage. And that may well have been your experience. But I want to suggest that I think we're in a cultural shift right now. And I think we're moving towards something that I'm praying will be described as a pre-Christian culture, where people actually are surprisingly open to Jesus. They just need to be invited to understand who he is and encounter him for themselves. And so I saw this clip a couple of weeks ago, and I think for me it highlights a little bit where our culture is at, and it surprised me how much people are open to Jesus. So this is a clip of Spencer Matthews. It's a TV program about a pilgrimage through Wales. Don't know if anyone's ever done one of those. I've not, but he's on it because he was. So I googled why he was on the program. He was on it because he was christened as a child in the Church of England, and therefore that qualified him to go on this pilgrimage through Wales with other celebrities who are coming from other faith backgrounds or none. And so this is just a 1-minute clip that I'd love us to watch.
So, Jesus Christ definitely existed. I thought he could have been made up as well. That's not disputed.
No.
So I didn't realise that. So I thought Jesus Christ was either something that you believe in or you don't. I thought he was fictitious.
No. So
he's not.
He's a real person.
I honestly feel like this is quite a big deal. For
I can see it in your eyes.
No, but I have kind of likened religion to just fairy tales before.
Of course.
Because it's kind of they're great stories.
Yeah, people do.
And they transcend time because they're such good stories.
Yeah.
So you're all excited that you found out that Jesus was a real person, Spencer?
Honestly, I kind of feel a bit stupid.
I'm so proud of him.
But it's changed a lot.
Fictional?
I did, yeah.
No, he was here. He was on this earth.
He's a real dude.
Yeah, he's a real dude.
But is there photographic evidence?
Well, no, there weren't photographs.
So is there any evidence at all?
Yes, it's all script.
That last word is it's all in scripture. So the news that Jesus is alive isn't a fairy tale. It's not fictitious. And although there's not photographic evidence, which I just love, he was, as the video clip pointed out, a real dude. And I wonder if any of your friends or family or work colleagues might welcome the opportunity to hear that news. And so N.T. Wright, he's someone that writes much more cleverly than I ever could about the Christian faith. He says this: modern Christians use the word witness to mean tell someone about your faith. The way Scripture seems to be using it is tell someone else that Jesus is the world's true Lord. See, the claim of the disciples was exactly that. Jesus is the world's true Lord. For the disciples, Jesus was not one truth or story among many. He wasn't someone from whom you could say, oh, it's fine for that to be true for you, but it doesn't have to be true for me. The claim of the Christian faith is that Jesus is the world's true Lord. And so the significance of the opportunity to share that truth is life-changing. It's world-changing even. Witnessing to Jesus' death and resurrection isn't something we do because we ought to or because we're told to, but rather witnessing to others about Jesus is a natural byproduct of our encounters with the risen Jesus. It's not something that's put upon us as a burden to do. It's something that as we experience Jesus, it should be the joy of our lives to share that encounter with others. That's exactly what happened with the disciples. You see, when they were on earth with Jesus, before Jesus' death and resurrection, they had 3 years with him. They had the opportunity to witness front row seats at his miracles. They heard firsthand how he prayed to his Father. They had opportunity to have the scriptures explained to them. And yet, in those 3 years before Jesus' death and resurrection, they didn't really get it. They often got it wrong. In fact, they often turned crowds away when they were hungry or grumpy. And when Jesus died on the cross, they even hid away terrified. And so how did this group of people transform from people that were hiding away terrified when Jesus had died on the cross to being the people that started the church that we're a part of 2,000 years later? It was because they encountered the risen Jesus. They encountered the physical risen Jesus in that room, and it fueled something that has lasted 2,000 years, starting from those disciples, that very story we heard tonight. We, since then, have seen one person after another share that news. Hey, look, I've encountered the risen Jesus. You can too. And then the next person, hey, look, I've encountered the risen Jesus. You can too. And so on it went. And now we are sat here on the 14th of April, 2024, 2,000 years later, because followers of Jesus haven't stopped saying that an encounter with Jesus has transformed their life. The difference between the disciples before and after an encounter with the risen Jesus is one of the reasons for me that the resurrection accounts are so believable. They're transformed from people who turned people away from Jesus when they were grumpy, hungry, and fed up. They turned people away from Jesus when crowds were behaving in an annoying way. They even hid when Jesus died on the cross. And yet, they transformed into people who boldly proclaimed and explained the scriptures in light of their encounter with the risen Jesus. And so by the Spirit, we can encounter the risen Jesus, not as a one-time event, but as an ongoing relationship. Each time we invite the Spirit to come and fill us afresh. And there's space and opportunity for us to do that this evening. And as we do, my prayer is that we will be propelled as a community to go in the power of the Spirit to see lives and communities transformed.